Now, in daily life, I know you must have used different tables, like tables found in Excel. A number of you, I know you have used tables for access. And now today I want us to look at how can you form tables in HTML. In HTML, we have a tag for tables, and therefore let's see how we can do that using HTML language. So the first thing I will have here is a comment that will help us know what we are doing. So let me type my comment, and inside my comment I will have the following writing. So I will say tables in HTML. The first thing I will do when I want to create tables in HTML is I will type the tag for tables. So I want to say tables, and then inside this tag for tables, I will press enter. And in between, the first thing one can do is to define the table row. So the table row also have a tag which written as tr, and this tr stands for table rows. So one can define a number of table rows inside the table tag. And in this first one, I can say, or I can write anything like a number. So I can say 1, and you will see that when I run this program, I can be able to see a 1 appearing on my web page. You can see on my web page, top left corner, you will see I have 1 here. That means I can define a number of rows in my web page, and therefore I can copy this table row, then I will paste it so that I have 3 of them. Now after this, I can change the second one to be 2, and then I will change the third one to be 3. And now this I'm trying to define a table row inside the table tag, and when I run this program again, we'll be able to see me having 3 table rows. You can see I have 1, 2, and 3 following each other. Now I can also use some tags within my table. For example, you can use break tag to separate between these rows so that they don't look very close. One can simply do this. So when I run this program again, you can see that I will have some difference or some space that is created between 1, 2, and 3. Now that is how you can define a table row, that scenario. Now another thing somebody can do is I can have table data inside my table row. So this is what I wanna do. I will just remove this one, and the first thing I will have is table row, and inside my table row I can have the table data, and table data now will contain exactly what one wish to see or to put inside any table you create. So still I will use 1, and I will also copy this one because it depends the number of tab data one may be in need to form. So I will copy. I said before the fastest way to copy is Control C. The fastest way to paste is Ctrl V. So I will have two of them, and let me name the second one to 2 so that we see a clear difference. Now you can see inside my table row, I have TD. Inside my table row, I will have TD, which stands for table data. There is some error there, so we'll just remove that one. Then type table data. So this is how it will look like. So let the first one be 1, and then I will have the next one, which will be 2. So let's run this program and see what we will have as table data. And if you run this program on my top left corner, you will see I have 1 followed by 2. That is the simplest way somebody can put data inside the table, which is defined inside the table row. So let me make them 3 because I want to use 3 of them. So I can come and copy this one. I can copy data number 2, then I paste it below. So I will change this to be 3. And in that scenario, I have 3 table data inside my tag table row. So assuming I want to create the same thing under table, this is what I will do. I can copy this table row defined here. It depends the number of rows I want my table to have. So I can copy all this, then I paste it below. Maybe I want my table to have more than 1 or more than 2 rows. So this is what I can do. I can paste that below so that when I run this program, I'll be able to have 2 rows appearing on my web page. And you can see when you run that program, this is what you will have. I have 1, 2, 3, and then followed by 1, 2, 3. So in short, I have 2 table rows. So let me just do some changes here. Let me have 4, then 5, then let me have this one to be 6 so that we can see clear differences. Again, I will run this program so that we can see the changes. You can see here I have 2 rows with different table data. So that is how you can create rows on a table, and it's that simple. Another thing somebody can add in tables is what is called table head. And for me to have table head, I will just come inside this table tag, press enter. Then I can add the tag for the table head, which is th. So after having this, I can write inside here, and I can say I can give my table head as list of numbers. Now this is my table head, and I am sure when I run this program, I should be able to see my table head appearing on top of this table that I formed before. Another thing you should notice is I want you to check this. When I try to minimize this page, then if I try to make it smaller, I want to see how responsive my table can be. So let me add some features so that we see what happens if any case I try to minimize this page. Another thing you can do, I can decide to make this list of numbers, which is my table head, to be big so that one can see it clearly. And this means I can come here and add H1. I can add H1. Then I will copy this head here, then paste it inside the tag called H1. And this will make it appear a little bit big compared to the original size of this writing. So let me paste it there. Then I can decide to create some space here. I can even use break tag to ensure there is a good space between my table rows and the table head. So when you run this program again, you will be able to see that this list of numbers becomes bold and large compared to the initial one we had before introducing H1. Now you can see when I make this window small, I still see my table appearing here. That means tables are responsive to the web page. Either you increase the page or make the page smaller, still you will see what is in your table. And when I say tables are responsive to the web page, I mean that whenever you try to maximize or minimize your page, the table will always respond to whatever you're doing. So you must always remember all that when dealing with tables. Another thing I can do with tables is caption. I can add caption inside my table. And the best way to add captions in a table is I can just come here on top and then I will have some caption and I can have any writing inside my caption. So let me start by typing caption. You can see caption tag here. And now this is what I have. If I have a writing like one inside my caption, then I run this program. How will the product look like on a web page? So I want to run this program and see if the outcome will appear on my web page. If I say caption to be one, and when I run this program, you can see on my web page, I am having the caption as one here on top. I can decide to make it big so that it looks more clear compared to what I have currently. So one way to do this is simple. I can just add H1, which is the header tag, and then inside this H1, I will type 1. So when I run this program, I should be able to see my caption, table caption coming out very clear. I can change this one to be list. I can say let it be list of numbers and say let it be list of numbers, and still when I run that you will be able to see the outcome appearing very clear on my web page. So I have list of numbers on my web page. I think you can see that here on my top left corner. Another thing you can do with tables, which is the last thing, uh, is called call span. I can use call span when handling tables. And how can I use call span? For example, you can see when I run this program, what I have inside my table like 1, 2, and 3, you will realize that when I run this program, they only take one column. They only take one column. For example, when I run this program, you will see 1, 2, 3 appearing on my web page. And you can see when I start with 1 here, it is only taking one column towards the right, 2 the same and 3 the same. So in some scenario, I would like maybe one to take more than one column, and that will bring in the use of call span. So that is what we use call span for. If I want a table data, for example, want to take more than one column, then I will have to introduce what is called call span inside my table, and this one will help me specify the number of columns I want my data table to take. Now, for example, I can come inside here where I have one, then I will create some space there. Then I will say call span. At the moment I introduce call span, I can specify, I can say like a number like 2, and this means I want this table data to take more than one column. I want it to take at least 2 spaces when I run this program. So when I run this program here, I should be able to see that difference, and that will appear on my web page. So you will realize that the space between 1 and 2 will increase whenever you use call span when handling tables. So you should always remember the use of the call span. At times, maybe you want to create tables, or you want your table data to have large spaces. Always remember. These two can even change to 3. It's not a must to be 2. It can even change to 3. That will help you create some space whenever you're handling tables. Now, the next thing we can do with HTML is called the input tags, and input tags can be used in many ways. So I want us to switch to input tags, then we see what exactly we can do with input tags. So I will just remove this table tags, then inside my comment I will have HTML input tags, and in these input tags you can do a lot of things. You can create a text area, you can create password, input for password, you can create so many things, like a button to open a file. You can create button for dates, you can create button for emails, checkbox, you can create radio, and you can have submit buttons. Another thing you should know is that for these input tags, most of them, all the submit buttons, most of them we put them inside what is called a form, and mostly a form tag is used just to contain these submit buttons. So the first thing I can do is I can come here because I want to use input tags. So I just come here and create some input. So when I type input there, I can type input there, then create some space. Then after that, I will type. I will have type there. And then I have to check what happens. The moment I type the word type, it will give me options what I want to use. You can see button, followed by checkbox, followed by color, followed by date, date time local, email, file hidden. I have image, month, and finally number. But first thing inside my type, inside that quotation mark, I want to have a word like text. Then finally, this input is always a single tag, so I will just close it directly. Then I can run this program. So I want us to look at what happens or what will appear on our web page when we run this program. Now, when I run and debug, you will see in my web page, I have some rectangle box which is formed, and I can be able to type some message inside here. You can see when I click inside this space, I can be able to type many words inside this text area. So that is one way you can use to create a text area using input tags in HTML. Another thing one can do is I can create an input for password. I can have password here, and then when I run this program again, you will be able to generate some box here. And when I try to type any password, you can see already it is encapsulated, and you will see it appearing just in form of dot. Assuming this was my password, I'd write it that way inside that space. Now, the next one is text area. I can specify text area inside my HTML input tag. So I can just come here and type area. I will type text area, sorry, and you can see when I type text area, I'm able to generate a text area inside my web page. That means when I run this program, I will be able to see my text area appearing on my web page. Now you can see the text area here, and I can increase the size of this text area the way I want, and I can also reduce it to the size I want. Now when I click inside here, I can be able to type information inside this text area. So that is another thing one can do with HTML input tags. Apart from text area, one can do a lot of things with this text area. For example, I can decide to specify the number of rows and the number of columns I want this text area to have. So I will just come inside here, press enter, then I will add row. I will add rows, and I can say rows to be 10, for example, and then I will create some space here again. And then after the space, I can have columns, and let columns be 30. That means when I run this program, my text area will have some specified or limits. So the columns cannot go beyond 30 and rows cannot go beyond 10. And when I run this program, you'll be able to see my text area here. So those are possible things you can do with the text area after specifying the number of rows and columns you want your text area to have. The next thing one can do is use input type to generate some functions like range, generate some functions like range. So this is what we will do. We just come here and then have input. Now instead of having password inside here, I can have what is called a range. And the moment I type range inside here, when I run this program, you'll be able to see that I have the range on my web page, so I can move along it. I can move from left to right or from right to left, and it will depend. When I move to the left, that means I am reducing the range. When I move from left to right, it means I am increasing the range. Another thing one can do is adding the date. I can have date here so that I can be able to pick the date directly when I am at my web page. So this is what you'll do when I run this program here. Uh, you can see on my web page I am having the date button, and you can see when I click here, that date button, I will be able to generate the current calendar, and you can see today is 26th and my calendar is working. The fact that we are using HTML input tags to generate all these maybe buttons doesn't mean they will work directly, but if you want to learn more on how to use this input or to make them function well, then you can study that in JavaScript. Another one I can add is file, and when I click this file button, it will take me directly to my Explorer. So let me try that and see if it's possible. Now you can see on my web page I have a button saying choose file, and when I click that choose file, it will automatically take me to my Explorer. That means you can also use input to generate a file button. I can have another one for email. I can have another one for email, and when I run this program, you will be able to see what will appear on my web page. We will definitely see if it will give us a space where we can write our email. So those are the possible things one can do. I can even define checkbox. I can even define checkbox. At the same time, I can define what we call radio button. So let me add another input type here, and instead of having email, I will have what is called the radio. I will have what is called the radio button, and lastly, I will have what is called submit button. One can simply create submit button in HTML, and you can see I am separating them with what is called break tag. So in the last input type, I will have a button called submit. And when you run this program, you should be able to generate all these on your web page, and they should be able to respond whenever you click them. They should be able to respond so that you can do whatever your intentions are with the following HTML buttons. So let me run this program. When we run this program, you can see the first one here. I have, that was a space for email. You can type there. You can see it's responding and taking whatever I'm trying to type. It is followed by what is called the checkbox. And when I click this checkbox here, you can see it's checking itself. You can see some white tick inside a blue color. So that means I can create a checkbox followed by radio button. So you can also click this radio button. On this checkbox, when I click it again, it will stop. Then when I press this radio button, it's also working, and I can click again to try to see if it will stop. Now I want you to notice something. When I run this program, before checking anything on checkbox and radio button, when I click on checkbox, it has a white tick and it turns to blue color. And when I click it again, it stops. That does not happen in the radio button. When you click radio button once, you can't click it again. That's the difference. Once you click the radio button, it will always remain the same. So for radio button, you can recheck it more than once. For radio button, you cannot. And that is a point one must always consider. It also means if I have two or more than one checkbox, I can check them at the same time, unlike radio buttons. The last one is submit button, and you can also create that one when using HTML. Now, the first thing I started with was a form, and I said the form tag can be used to just to contain these HTML input tags. So how can I use a form? And that is the last thing under inputs. I can just type a form there. And once I type a form, I can just create the HTML input tags inside this form. So I can press enter, and then inside that a form, I will have the input. I can just have the input. For example, I can have text there. If not text, I can just create anything I want. For example, I can have a button like submit. And now that you can see input type and submit, I want you to realize that it's now inside the form tag. We only use this form tag to contain all these input buttons or input tags in HTML. I can return what I had done before. So when I click Ctrl V, I'll be able to regenerate whatever I have inside my codes, and you can see I have all of them, but now I have them inside my form tag. So don't always forget that if you want to use this HTML input tags, always put them inside the form tag, because that is where they should be. We use this form tag for containing input tags. So thanks for watching. We kindly request subscribe to our YouTube channel, that is Ajomax Codes Kenya, and then click the notification button so that anytime we upload a new video on programming, you will be able to see and watch. Thanks for watching.